Hilchos Shar Avos Hatumos Perek Shloisha Asar. The laws of the remaining primary sources of impurity, chapter 13. And today we have a chapter with two parts. One is a very important hierarchy, the staircase of clothing. You'll be fascinated to learn that because there are different standards, different levels of purity maintenance, I guess is the best way to put it. So people would actually keep away from each other if they knew that they were keeping a lower standard. So if I was trying to keep all my stuff kosher for truma, so I would keep away from anybody who wasn't. And I would actually consider their clothes to be tameh. This way there was no confusion and I wouldn't get involved in problematic situations. So the Rambam is going to describe all the levels on this hierarchy for the first part of the chapter. And then, second part of the chapter is going to move into really what we're going in for the next couple of days, which is called safek, doubts. Doubts related to impurity, which doubts are problematic, and then tomorrow we're going to get which doubts are okay. So that's the journey for today. So first, the hierarchy that we have over here. It says that Rambam halacha aleph chamesh mailes asu oisan chachamim bivgadim. The rabbis created a hierarchy with 5 steps in terms of clothes. Now here you can see we have actually 6 steps, but that's because it's 5 levels past the regular. So the way it goes is like this. The eluhein, they are bigdei am haaretz, clothing worn by an am haaretz, which is defined halachically as somebody who's not scrupulous, not familiar with the laws of purity and impurity. Midras la'ich lechulein betara is considered to be midras. Midras means you have to, it's like as if a zav lie down on it or sat on it. It's very strict. They would consider it midras for those who were eating chulin in purity. Remember, there's no mitzvah to not be impure. Only for like truma and higher level stuff. Your regular bread and stuff at home, you're allowed to have in a state of impurity. It was considered to be extra orthodox if you only ate your chulin in purity. So if you're one of those people, you looked at the person below your level, the am haaretz, you say, you know what, I don't touch your clothes, because I don't know what you've been touching. I don't want to ruin my chulin that's being eaten in purity with whatever stuff that you have. Therefore, they consider it to be midras. V'chein amei haaretz atzmon kezavin letares. In fact, the amei haaretz themselves, their bodies, they were considered to be like a zav with regards to all purity matters, as we actually had in the last set of laws, all about this. As we explained. That's level 1. Then you go level 2. Ubigdei oichle chulein betara. These people who think they're so orthodox, I eat my chulin in purity, their clothes, midras la'ichle ma'aser sheni, were considered to be midras, like impure, for those who were going to eat the second tithe. Second tithe, that's of course, right, you take 2% to the Kohen, 10% to the Levi, and then another 10% you go to Yerushalayim, and you eat it in a state of holiness and sanctity. Even more than your regular chulin. You got to watch out for it. It shouldn't become impure. So those guys who knew they had to eat Ma'aser Sheni, they look down one level and say, you know what, your clothes? No good. I consider it to be midras. Avol oichle chulein betara. But the people themselves who were eating their chulin in a state of purity, they're called prushim. English, the Pharisees. Right? So them, einam kezavim. In the case of the Am Haaretz, their clothes are problematic and their bodies themselves are problematic. In the case of these guys, we say only their clothes but not themselves. They're not considered a zav even for truma, which is a level up above Ma'aser Sheni. The person who's the Pharisee, the person who is considered separate, he will be considered pure even if he touches truma with his body. Takes his hand, touches it, we won't consider it to be impure.
Consider the pushing part of the keilah?
Yeah, the Prushim are the good guys.
The Sadducees.
The Sadducees are the bad guys. Tzdukim are the bad guys. Yeah. Prushim are the good guys. Then we go even higher. Ubigda ichle ma'aser sheni, the clothes of these guys who were eating ma'aser sheni, and they think they're so religious. Midras la'ichle truma atzman. For those who are actually eating truma, the Kohanim, they look down and say, you know what, your clothes are impure for me. I don't touch it. But even that's not the highest level. Ubigdei oichle truma, midras lakodesh. Clothing of the Kohanim who were only eating truma, they were considered to be impure for those who were eating sacrificial meat. Aval oichle truma atzman. Again, the people themselves that were eating truma, einam kezavim lakodesh. They're not considered to be problematic with regards to sacrificial meat. They can touch it and it's no problem. But if their clothes touch it, it's a problem. Ubigdei oichle kodesh. This is the last level. The clothing of those who eat sacrificial meat, midras lechatas, was still considered to be impure with regards to para aduma water. The preparation of para aduma water with the ash was the utmost severity of purity. Everything under it was considered to be impure relative to it, Hilchos para aduma, as we explained in the laws of preparing the para aduma. Aval hator lakodesh ene kezav lechatas, but a person, the guy himself, if you're pure enough to eat sacrificial meat, you're not going to be a problem if you touch para aduma water, but your clothes will be the problem. Now, corresponding to this hierarchy of levels, the rabbis also established a hierarchy of purity for the people that are involved in it. Halacha beis v'chein asu chachamim mailes b'tvila. The rabbis created these steps, these levels when it comes to mikvah, which means ketzat. What does that mean? Misha taval b'lei kavana. If somebody goes to the mikvah and he has no specific intent, just I want to become pure. To what level does he become pure? The lowest level on the step stool. Harei tahar l'chulin. He's only pure enough to eat chulin and not consider it to be impure. V'asr b'maiser sheni, but he cannot eat maiser sheni claiming to be pure. I was just in the mikvah yesterday. No. Until you have in mind, ad sheyiskavin litbal maiser. When you go to the mikvah, you must dip, you must immerse with the intent to become pure enough to eat maiser sheni. Taval maiser sheni, if you did so, you went to the mikvah having in mind to eat second tithe. So sure, you're presumed to be pure for that, the asr b'truma, but you cannot eat truma, even if you're a kohen. You're not pure enough for that. Got to go again to the mikvah. Tavalit truma, if you went to the mikvah, having in mind truma, huchzak litruma, you're considered presumed good enough to eat truma, the asr b'kodesh, but you cannot eat sacrificial meat. Taval l'kodesh, you went to the mikvah for sacrificial meat. Huchzak l'kodesh, v'asr l'chatas, you're presumed good for the meat, but not for paraduma stuff. Taval l'chatas, huchzak l'koil. If you went to the mikvah for paraduma, now you can do everything. Because the higher levels include the lower ones. If somebody goes to the mikvah for a more severe concept, he becomes permitted or presumed pure for all the lower level concepts. Taval stam, the Rambam repeats. You go to the mikvah just by default with no specific intention. You're only pure for consuming the lowest level, just regular grain, regular stuff. But you remain impure for second time. V'chein, similarly, let's say it's just your hands that are a problem. Rabbinically, we saw in chapter 8 that your hands themselves can become impure. Sometimes you have to just wash them. Other times you got to put them in the mikvah. But you have to have in mind. Tzarich kavana, afilu l'maiser. Depending on what you want to use your hands for afterwards, you can't just wash them. You have to wash them with intent. Omina maiser v'mayla tzarich kavana. From maiser and up, you have to have specific intent.
Why not just intend for paraduma?
Because then you have to maintain a high level of purity. Then you can't touch anything.
Okay.
Right? You may not want to. You got to manage your expectations.
I see. Okay.
But if I wasn't a Kohen, I don't see a reason to go for crazy for truma.
Right.
Let me just keep it for my Sheni. That's good enough for me.
Okay.
But for chulin to be kosher for regular stuff, you don't even need intent because that's by default included in the dip or in the washing of whatever you did. Says the Rambam, all these steps and hierarchies are only rabbinic. By biblical law, just going to the mikvah at any rate makes you pure for everything. It was the rabbis that came and made this all these levels. Halacha gimel. Misha hayatar litruma. Let's say a person was at level 3. Okay? Or let's use this step stool here. He's good enough to eat truma. V'hisiya es libay milechel. And then he diverts his mind. Diverts his attention from eating. Nitma behesachadas. Just the diversion of the mind makes him impure again. And when he comes back, v'asher lechel truma ad sheyitbel pam shniya. Imagine this. He can't eat truma to go to the mikveh again. Yeah? Because we don't know what happened. If you weren't focused, maybe your hands went somewhere that they shouldn't have, and they became impure. However, since it's only a rabbinic requirement, you don't have to wait till evening. Once you go to the mikveh, you're good. This is why there were so many mikvahs. You go to Jerusalem, there's so many mikvahs. Like, why? How many people lived here? Because you had to have a mikveh everywhere. Because in every situation, you need just to hop into the mikveh.
Like a 7-Eleven on every corner.
Literally, you got to come in, come out. Hayu yadav tahiris litruma. A person whose hands were pure for truma. V'hisiyas liba milechel, and he diverted his mind from eating. Afal pisha amar yoideyani shalinitmu yadai. Even though he says, I know for sure, my hands did not become impure. Diversion of the mind makes them impure, because hands are busy. They're busy, we don't know what they're touching. So even if you think you're sure, you can't be that sure. If that's the case for truma, so how much more so for sacrificial meat? Person diverts his mind back to the mikveh. If a person didn't guard himself from corpse impurity, he wasn't careful, and he doesn't know for sure that he didn't become impure, before he can go back to eating sacrificial meat, he has to go to the para aduma sprinkling station and get sprinkled on himself third and seventh day. If he knows for sure that he didn't become impure from a corpse, but other impurities he wasn't mindful of, then he has to have mikvah and he has to wait till evening, even just to eat truma, because over here, we don't know again what could have happened to you in terms of other impurities. Again, it's clear all these mikvah requirements are all rabbinic. Halacha Daled, another type of decree imposed by the sages. You find utensils in the market, on the streets, even in a desert. The rabbi said default is they're presumed to be impure. Maybe a zav or a dead body touched them. Any spit or saliva on the floor has to be presumed to be impure. Don't step on it. Maybe it's the spit of a zav, which itself is an Hatumos, primary source of impurity. So you want to keep far from it. All utensils that are found in Jerusalem are pure. See, here you see, Yerushalayim was kept to a higher standard. You can assume that it's pure. Even if you found them on the stairs going down to a mikveh. Going down to a mikveh probably means they're impure, they're being brought down for a dip. No. The sages blanketly did not make any impurity decreed on utensils in Yerushalayim. Everything, it's called Yerushalayim Muchzekes Betara. Jerusalem is presumed to be pure. Except for the knives that were used for slaughtering sacrifices, out of stringency. For sacrifices, if you find the knife, let's say, you assume that maybe it's a little bit impure, you put it in the mikveh. Now here's a fascinating caveat to this. Amurim says that when do we say this? Bisakin hanimtzas b'Yerushalayim bishar yemais hashana. If the knife is found in Jerusalem, where's my background? It's supposed to be the Jerusalem street here. Okay. Anyway, if you find it the rest of the days of the year, Avalim nimtza sakin b'Yerushalayim b'yem arba asar b'Nisan. Listen to this. If you find the knife in Yerushalayim on the 14th day of Nisan Erev Pesach, when everybody is shechting carbon Pesach and everybody is keeping high levels of purity, sheichet b'hakadashim miyad, you can use it literally. Take the knife, walk into the temple, and slaughter with it. Va'afilu chol arba asar liyas b'Shabbos, even if like this year, Erev Pesach is going to be on Shabbos, when there's, again, higher levels of stringency. Doesn't make a difference. Any knives found on Erev Pesach, the rabbis didn't make a decree because they didn't see a reason to. People are assumed to be holding high standards of purity. Same if you find on a holiday, on Pesach or Shavuos or Sukkot, you can use it to slaughter right away. The presumption is that all utensils are pure on Yom Tov. We had a similar concept in the last set of laws, that what's called Kol Yisrael Chavedim Heim Beregel. On holidays, all Jews are considered to be scrupulous and they make themselves and their stuff pure. Halacha Vav, Matzah Hasakin B'Yom Shloisha Asar. What if you found the knife on day 13, day before Erev Pesach? Mazeh Aleha Umat Bila V'Sheichet Balemachar. So while you cannot just use it right away, what you could do though is get away with just one sprinkling. Typically you have to sprinkle third day and seventh day. Here, you use the same assumption. You say, probably the Jew who lost it was in the process of making it pure, getting ready for tomorrow. So he for sure already sprinkled it once. So I'll just do this second sprinkling, put it in the mikveh, and use it the next day. The rabbis on this day, they say, you know what, day 13, we're going to call it day 7 for sprinkling this, because that's probably how it worked out. That's probably what the Jew was preparing for Erev Pesach. Halacha Zayin, matzah sakin kshura, l'sakin ayadua etzlai. You have a knife that you know is pure, and you find another knife tied to that knife. Bein b'yamtiv, bein b'shara yamim, whether it's holiday or any other days, harehi kamaya. You have to assume it's like the one that you know. Im tahira tahira, im tmeya tmeya. If it's pure, it's pure. If it's not pure, it's not pure. In other words, here, the fact that you know the status of one of the knives overrides the calendar date. You only use the date in the case of doubt. Here, you know one of the knives is kosher or not. So whatever that is, the other knife is the same thing. Halacha ches, back to the saliva thing. Kol harukin animtzayim b'Yerushalayim be'emtza haderech. Any spit or saliva that you find in Jerusalem in the middle of the road, gazru aleihem tuma, ki shar harukin animtzayim b'chol makom. Even though it's Jerusalem, even though people are, stricter, but if it's in the middle of the road, you presume that it's impure, like any spit you find anywhere. But if it's on the sides of the road, it's pure. Unfortunately, the Pharisees were relegated to the sides of the road. They would walk on the sides, so they shouldn't become impure from touching regular people who didn't care to walk in the middle of the roads. So it ended up being that the more careful people walked on the sides. So you can assume that the sides are more pure than the middle of the road. But if it's a holiday time, so the opposite happens. Fascinating. In the middle of the road, it's pure. All Jews are pure on holidays. The sides are impure. Because who's the minority now? The minority is the impure people. Right? Whenever you're the minority, you always go away from the crowd. The crowd's walking in the middle, you walk on the sides. So the impure people, they walk on the sides, so therefore their spit on the sides is going to be considered to be impure. Halacha tes. Here we move tumas hasfekos. We're talking now about doubtful impurities. This is going to really occupy us for the next couple of days. It says that Rambam keshem sheharishen eisa sheni v'hasheni eisa shlishi. Same way when it comes to foods, and even other things. First degree can make a second degree makes a third degree. Kain sfeik rishen eisa sfeik sheni. If you have something which is in doubt, whether it's a rishon or not, I don't know if it touched a carcass or not. I don't know if it touched a dead rodent or not. I have to be strict and assume that it's maybe a rishon. And then when it touches food, maybe that food's a sheni, etc., etc., etc. Halacha yud truma v'kadashim shenitmu b'sfeik av me'avos hatumos shel teiram. If you have truma or sacrificial meat, which became impure from a doubtful primary source of impurity. No, that's the wrong translation. The source of impurity is for sure impure. It's for sure a dead carcass, let's say. You're not sure if the truma or kaddish touched it. It's powerful enough to make them be burnt with this impurity. Meaning if you have a doubt whether it touched the av or not, that's powerful enough, you got to get rid of it. Burn the truma, burn the kaddish. However, Yud Aleph, v'yesham sfeikos, she'ein surfin aleyen. There are other doubts that you don't go rush to burn the truma. But v'ein oichlin oisan oichlin, she'nistabek le'abem. You can't eat it either. Elatoilin, you hang it in the balance. Lo oichlin v'lo surfing. You don't eat, you don't burn. There are some doubts that are like that. That's like a lower category. V'yesham sfeikos, some doubts will force you to burn both truma and, needless to say, sacrificial meat. Meaning sometimes the ruling will only be you have to burn truma. But then you learn by what's called kol shekim, by kal v'chemer, by fortiori, that for sure you should burn the kaddish. Halacha yud beis, while that's true of all types of doubts, aval al safek, what we call a svek sveka, a double doubt, ein surfin alav truma lo elam. You'll never burn truma for a double doubt, certainly not sacrificial meat. You're always going to hang it in the balance and just, not eat it or burn it. Halacha Yud Gimel. Let's get some of those details here. Al shisha sfeikos surfin asa truma. There are 6 doubts for which we burn truma. The kulam gzera midivreyan, they're all rabbinical decrees. The Elohen, and they are. Number 1, al beis hapras. This we had at length in the case of corpse impurity. You have a field which was plowed, and you plowed a grave, and now you don't know, there might be a bone that's barley size somewhere in the field. So if then the the person who walked there touches the truma, now it's a problem. The al-afar haba me'eretz ha'amim, dirt that comes from the diaspora, also has a rabbinical level of impurity, as we saw in the beginning of this book. B'al-bigdei ha'ma'aretz, clothing of an ha'ma'aretz, from the beginning of the chapter, where we're worried that maybe somebody in his household, made them impure, so it's impure. B'al-ha'kelim ha'nimtzoyim, and on the utensils that are found in Jerusalem, that are found anywhere, where we just explained that they're considered to be impure. B'al-harukin ha'nimtzoyim, saliva that's found in the streets, also considered to be impure. Let's say you have a mix of urine from an impure person with an animal's urine. Remember, they used to actually use urine for laundering purposes. You have to know what the law was. Mechza lemechza, it's half mix. You don't know if the appearance of the impure urine became nullified or not. That's a doubt for which you will burn truma. What does it mean to burn truma? Ketzad. In nitmes truma, machmas echad mishisha ilu, if truma becomes touched or impure because of contact with one of these 6 things, afal pisha ikar tumasei besafek, even though the whole status of impurity is a doubt, harezu tisarev, you must burn it. Hoyel uvadoi sveikos elu tumasa min atayra, because let's say the doubt was certain. Let's say our suspicion was correct, and you became impure. That means you became impure with a biblical type of impurity. Corpses and zavs are biblically impure, and that's the doubt behind all these things. So since in a case of certainty it'd be biblically forbidden, so in case of doubt, we're going to burn the truma. Doesn't matter if the truma touched it directly, one of these 6 things, or became impure from a later hierarchy. Maybe it's like 3rd step away from one of them. If you burn it, you have to burn it. But if you're in doubt whether you even came into the status, I don't know, was I in the Beis HaPras or was I not? Was I in the diaspora's dirt or was I not? Did I touch those clothes or utensils or saliva or urine or not? So now, you only, if you then touch truma, it puts it into the hanging in the balance. Mipnei, why? This is a double doubt. First of all, the core impurity is in doubt, whether it's pure or impure. That same doubt we had before is still a doubt. Even if you rule that it's for sure impure, you're also in doubt whether you touched it or not. So now you have a double doubt. As we explained, you never burn truma over a double doubt, you only leave it hanging.